Hi, this is Jamie. Want to do a video this time critiquing my last video and everything I missed. Okay, so the second to last video, I was talking about Formic Pro and that I couldn't find the queen. And what my big mistake was tearing down a queen cell. I thought that was my biggest mistake, but while I'm editing other videos, it really shows how many errors I'm making while I'm in the hive. So that's what I'd like to talk about, is where I'm making mistakes in the hive, and it's really easy to go back and see that while I'm editing video. It's almost like game day footage to a point. So yeah, that's kind of what I'd like to talk about. And so in the last video, I talked about I couldn't find the queen, we had capped brood, but we didn't have any eggs or larvae. I didn't see any of that. So after tearing the queen cell down in the previous video, this one, one of the reasons for a lot of my mistakes was I had on blinders. I already had a preconceived idea of what I was going to find in there. And big mistake right there. So what it did is it limited how much I could see or how much I was actually looking for. And in that video, my wife actually asked, well, what are we looking for? And I tell her what we're looking for, but I just don't see it. I'm not paying enough attention. So that's kind of what I'd like to go through here, is just a couple screenshots from that last video. Lots of really good comments that people have put in there as far as things that they have seen. So if you haven't seen that, please go back and watch it. We'll have it posted here at the end of the video. But what I'd like to do is talk about this first slide that we have here. And so the whole reason for saying my previous biggest mistake was we were treating with Formic Pro. After doing a 20-day treatment, after the first 10 days, I tore down a queen cell and I couldn't find the queen. So then in our next video, I say that we didn't have a queen. I never found her, didn't see her, and didn't see any signs of her. So if you look right here in this first video, up here in this corner, you'll see the queen. And she's there. And if you want a better shot, here's our queen. Now right down here on this corner, and a little bit better shot, look at the size of her compared to the other bees. And she looks really good. I wasn't paying attention. I already had a preconceived idea that I wasn't going to see a queen. There she is. So right offhand, again, another big mistake. Already had blinders on for what I was going to find in the hive. And I didn't take enough time to really look at the combs themselves and see what was going on. So there's our queen. The 20-day Formic Pro did not have anything to do with the missing queen. She is right there, and she was doing really good. I just didn't see it. So next, one of the things I pointed out to my wife was, hey, over here we have a bee emerging, so it's chewing itself out. So focused on the bee itself, and I said, hey, it's right here by my finger. So we're looking at this bee chew its way out of the honeycomb, and that was pretty cool, right? That was kind of neat. But look at what's around the bee. Egg, 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 egg. All through here really good. You see that we've already got some royal jelly in some of these where the eggs already hatched, and the bees are taking care of them. They're doing really good. All this is what I should have been looking for, but with my blinders on, I didn't see it. There was tons of eggs in these. So what I think happened with the Formic Pro, because we didn't see young larvae, is it probably did shut her down for a while. And now after the 22 days, she's coming right back in and backfilling where this brood had emerged. And I had blinders on, I just didn't see it. So tons of stuff. So really neat seeing the bee. That was the distraction with it chewing its way out, and just all of these eggs that are laid in here looking really good, and already some turning into really young larvae. And to keep proving that point, here's another slide to where we have as easy as it could be to see. Got to give my wife credit for her with her phone and being able to take some really clear shots. And again, I've got to learn to look through the veil to be able to see this, get a little bit better light, or do the David Burns thing and get one of those clear view pieces that go through the veil as well. But again, you see egg, 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 and then some of this actually has royal jelly in it as well. So the queen was there. She was doing really good. I just didn't see her, and I didn't pay attention to the signs that were there. Here, the same thing. This has got a lot more royal jelly around there. We're paying attention. We're looking at the second bee that we pointed out. Perfect shots of some of these eggs and some things that are being backfilled with pollen and bee bread as well. And again, when you see this, a lot of these you'll notice are really, really ragged. And that's just a good indication that a bee has chewed its way out, right? And that's what she's doing is they've come in. The nurse bees have cleaned everything up, and she's coming in right behind them and laying all this really good brood, all this really nice eggs. So again, had blinders on, did not pay attention to what was in front of me. So really need to slow down, really need to take time to look at the combs. So this was after a mite treatment. And so we did, to be really specific with it, for one hive, our first hive, our Phineas hive, I think it did really good. Now, again, it was 2 deeps with a super the complete time. So that's a big hive for a treatment. And we did a 20-day treatment, which was 1 Formic Pro pad or strip at one time. And we found a lot of mites, and it knocked them down, and they really took off. In this case, we had a hive that had 2 deeps and a super for the first 10-day treatment, and then they had stripped all the wax out of the super. And so we took that away, and they just had 2 deeps for the second 10-day treatment. And this was where they had the deformed wing virus and just a really, really heavy mite load. And so in that way, we weren't using Formic Pro correctly. They really needed a heavy knockdown. It should have been the 2-pad, 15-day dosage, I think it is. And it was too heavy for the 1. So we just weren't using it correctly. So even with this size of a hive, even after 20 days or 22 days of having Formic Pro in here, right here on this bee, you can see we still have a phoretic mite. A mite riding around on a bee, chewing on its fat body, right? So didn't see that in the hive, and we're doing a hive inspection after Formic Pro. So, like I said, a little difficult. Should have been looking for that. Didn't see it on the bee. While we're here, and again, same frame that we were looking at before. So here's this nice, scene of this bee chewing its way out of the honeycomb, all these eggs that are around it that I didn't pay attention to. What's up here in this upper left-hand corner? A bee with the deformed wing virus and a mite attached to it, feeding on it. Again, didn't see it. So this is what we were supposed to be inspecting for. Already had blinders on. Wasn't paying enough attention. So on that note, we know mites can vector deformed wing virus. So I didn't pay a lot of attention, and I'm happy that I went through the hive that doesn't have the virus and really had a low mite load first, because I didn't pay attention to my tools. I didn't even think about having contaminated tools and taking them to another hive. So I'm glad I went in the order that I did. But again, something to think about. I knew we were fighting deformed wing virus in here because of the heavy mite load. And as you saw on the previous slide and this one up here, we have a bee that's obviously up here that has deformed wing virus where it was affected in its development. So didn't see signs of that, wasn't specifically looking for it, and knew that it was an issue. As we continue through, this is where the bee was chewing its way out. Again, you can see another example of the forming virus here. And again, this is something where I really need to pay attention to my tools, clean my tools, make sure everything's good as I'm going from hive to hive. Just something I really didn't notice while I was in there. And then did get a lot of comments, and people, I have to admit, really watch videos closely. And it was amazing how many people in the comments called back about, hey, watch out for small hive beetles. I never mentioned small hive beetles while I was in there. But in this first shot here, where I'm first taking this screened inner cover or vented inner cover off, right over here is a small hive beetle which ducks down and crawls right into the frames. Then right after that, a small hive beetle walking down the edge of the hive box itself. Never mention it, don't think about it. So back on this shot where we had the bee that is chewing its way out of the honeycomb, we do have a small hive beetle that a lot of people pointed out that was kind of ducking for cover and running as we go. And this is all a precursor of things to come. We end up having some problems with small hive beetles, so and it gets pretty bad. I wasn't paying enough attention to things that were happening in here. And again, just a perfect image of some eggs that are being laid and some early royal jelly that's in some of these cells where the eggs are just hatching into very small larvae. So here I want to talk about, there's a couple different things I said. And a lot of times two things I misspeak about a lot. And so I want to pull out nectar as they're storing it in the honeycomb. When it's uncapped, it's nectar. I said honey a lot. And again, I apologize for that. So they store nectar. Once they add their enzymes and they evaporate it down and it's capped, it's then honey. So I'm aware of that. I made that mistake over and over and over again. And even editing the video, it was driving me crazy that I was saying it wrong. But nectar before it's capped, as they're drying it down, once it's capped, honey. So I do pay attention to that. But I talk about, man, this is a horrible brood pattern. And it's right in front of me why the pattern looks like it is. Look at this nice fuzzy white bee. And then right down here, look at this nice fuzzy white bee. And we've got several of them that are over here to the sides. These are bees that have just emerged. They're just coming out of the honeycomb. They're just coming out of their pupa, and they've got all this fuzzy hair that's on them. It's basically like a newborn baby. And so that's why this brood looks the way it does, is because they're emerging. They're chewing these caps off. So when you see that, it doesn't mean that it's a bad brood pattern necessarily. It depends on when the queen was laying there and when it's time for their brood cycle to be up and them to emerge. So I mentioned brood pattern over and over again, and a lot of it was just bees happened to be emerging at that time. It was their time. Over this 20-day period that we were looking at Formic Pro, you can see that again with a lot of these cells that have the ragged edges all the way through here to where this is just where bees have chewed themselves out, and you see these nice fuzzy bees. So again, it's not necessarily a bad brood pattern. It's just to the point to where, hey, these things have came out. They look really, really good, and now the queen is coming back and backfilling where bees have emerged out. We also have our small hive beetle hiding out right up here. So again, what I've got to do is really slow down. Summertime, and especially getting into the fall when robbing gets really bad. It's easy to go too fast for me to try to close the hive back up really well, and to just not pay enough attention to not take enough time. And so I really need to slow myself down. A really good suggestion that I'm going to start trying to follow is, with my video, pay attention to my video and go back and watch it like practice footage or game day footage, because there's a lot of things I can pick out in here that I did not see while I was in the hive. And so it does make it pretty nice to be able to go back and see these. Number one, we were still queen right, and she was doing awesome. And I was worrying ourselves to death about what happened here. So I've got this last frame in here, looking what was crawling around in the video as well, just kind of as a not paying attention to what was there, didn't take enough time to actually read the frames. So when you look in here, we've got some nice white fuzzy bees that have been emerging. They look really good. We do have some tattered wings, so we've got some older bees that are in here with some of our younger fuzzy bees. So again, that means we've got brood that's coming out. We've got our small hive beetle, which is hiding right here in the middle. Hate seeing that, but there were quite a few in here that the bees weren't roughing up the way they really should have been. We also see deformed wing virus here, deformed wing virus here, deformed wing virus up here, and I think some right here in the middle. So again, all kinds of signs of deformed wing virus, and the whole thing I was trying to do, this was an inspection after using Formic Pro to really knock down the mites. And down here is another bee with a ferritic Varroa destructor mite riding around on it. That should have been a really big clue that I am going to have to do more. It didn't do what I hoped it would, because I think we had way too much space and was using it at too weak of a level. So just a couple things that I wanted to call out, looking at the video itself, that I wasn't taking enough time to actually read the frames. So a lot of people called that out in the comments really well, so thank you for that. So that's just an indication of some things that I really wasn't aware of, and I should have been by looking at these frames. So kind of a precursor of things to come. So really appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.